Well, good morning, everybody. Danny back from Deepsouth Homestead. I guess I'm gonna have to call it condo time because this is this is a Sunday morning in the condo here at Pecan Grove, and guys, it's kind of it's become my place of peace, if I could say it that way. You know, everybody needs a place that they can just like retire to and have a prayer closet, kind of, because that's in the scripture. It talks about prayer closets. Of course, in my Messianic and Hebraic, should I say Hebraic, not Messianic, but Hebraic teaching that I went through, I have the talit to put over my head. Basically, that's what men did at that time when they prayed, and that was it didn't have any magical powers. But it blocked out the world that was around you and allowed you to be alone in your thoughts. So I have my talit, to use if I need it, and it's I just like I like having a place to go be alone and talk to the Lord. And that's one thing I love about being over here at Pecan Grove. I usually do this on a Sunday morning because it's one of those times that most of the people are still in bed. They don't even get up anymore on Sunday morning. And I don't understand that, but they don't. They like to sleep in and just lay around, just be lazy on Sunday. And it allows me to have this time down here in the woods to come. Now, turkey season is about to open here in the Deep South, here shortly, and I am at the food plot, and I do try to keep my eye on seeing what birds are here. Now, last year we had 3 different groups of turkeys. We had our hens, we had our jakes, and then we had a group of mature gobblers. And about mid-deer season, everything disappeared. And haven't seen them since. Well, yesterday, riding around on the property, I saw gobbler tracks all around my pond, and then I saw some on the road going up to my barn. So I know they're coming back. And maybe this place, because it is no hunting pressure, maybe they come and raise their little ones here. So that would be a blessing for that to happen. I have trash piles pushed up in lots of places now because I don't burn my trash piles. I push them up and let them rot down for organic matter. And they get up behind them trash piles and, find a place to nest up under them and all. So I like that. And then, today is, you wonder why I'm in a jacket. It's 44 degrees and we're under a high wind advisory. Now, there is a system coming across the United States that's supposedly bringing with it some really bad weather. And I guess we're just getting the tail end of this thing. I don't know. I haven't really spent a lot of time looking at it because I've been so busy. But I did notice on my little computer thing that I look at that we are under a high wind advisory starting tomorrow, which is Monday, all the way till Tuesday. So a lot of people have said they're going to be getting some severe weather, and I hope nobody gets bad severe weather. We're kind of in one of those spots that's I don't know if you call it a sweet spot or a bad spot or what, but it has its pros and its cons. When the Gulf breeze comes in, it comes just so far inland, and when it does, the air from up in the central part of the United States meets that Gulf breeze, and right along that's a convergence zone where the weather usually gets kind of rough at, and that's about 45 to 50 miles north of us. And of course, they seem to get most of the rain, where we miss the rain a lot of times. They all get flooding rain. But they get lots of tornadoes and bad weather and stuff like that. And it's usually, and when hurricanes come in, we get the brunt of the hurricane where they do not. I mean, so it kind of weighs out. It just depends on where you live at in the nation as to your weather conditions, as to what you'll have to face where you live at. And that's things that I tell people, these are things you need to look into when you go to try to look for a piece of property. Look at weather patterns. Now, the sad part about it is the weather patterns are going to be changing here before long. And, what we've been used to for most all of our lives is probably not going to work anymore. Oh, and it's frustrating because I spent my whole life studying the patterns of the weather, and I keep journals and stuff like this so that I can pretty much predict what's going to happen from year to year. But here in the last several years, it's gotten where it's really, really difficult for me. Even though I have journals to look back on and kind of see patterns and stuff like that, it's really not an easy thing now. And most of your weather stations, and if they're honest now, most of your weather stations are implementing AI, because AI can do a bit better job about looking at these fronts and how they're moving and how they're doing in order to be able to predict stuff. And what little bit I get to look at the weather and what goes on in the nation weather-wise, I'm seeing some patterns that, based off of my history that I have with stuff wrote down, is looking like we've got some massive problems going on. Because one is Iceland up there just keeps it just keeps having volcanic activity up there. It just keeps breaking up in places and breaking up and breaking up, and then the next thing you know, more lava's oozing out here, more lava there. Well, technically Iceland, let's just use this a little bit of a scenario. When you have a hot water heater, and your hot water heater, on the top of it, you have what's called a pop-off valve. That's in case the pressure on the inside gets to be too much, and you have it, when it rises above a certain amount, before it'll blow the tank up, it pops off that valve and blows it out. And so that's basically what the area of Iceland is, based on what I understand, with all the tecton plates underneath the earth and all that kind of stuff. Iceland's like that pop-off valve. And Iceland basically is a warning to the rest of the world, because there's deep under Iceland, my understanding now, I could be wrong about this, but my understanding from and I'm not a scientist by no means, even though I have studied a great deal of science. I don't claim to be a scientist. But underneath Iceland are some mega super volcanoes that's way bigger than Yellowstone. So for Iceland to continue to be popping off like it is, as regular as it is, tells me as an individual, now, like I said, I'm not a scientist, but it tells me as an individual that the pop-off valve keeps popping up there. And if that is the case, and if this is, what I've been able to just study and figure out is true, then that means that underneath our surface of our earth, it's just getting too hot. And the valve is blowing off up there. It keeps blowing off. Well, you take a pop-off valve in a hot water heater, after a while, it ceases to work like it's supposed to. If it keeps popping off too many times, it will eventually fix it where it won't work like it's supposed to. And then you run the risk of the tank exploding. Well, that's the thing that's concerning me about this deal up in Iceland, is the simple fact that as this thing keeps going off up there, the other plates that are underneath the United States, they're telling us now we have a new fracture zone on the western side of the Appalachian that nobody really wants to talk about. Of course, we have the New Madrid, and then we have, several plates running from there's plates now running from just this side of Nashville, all the way out to California, out through Colorado and out to California, out that way. And these plates, you know, if there's a plate off the coast of Mexico, Central America. Let's just say Central America. It's called the coast plate. If that plate moves more than a specific amount, then the plate in California definitely will shift. And when it shifts, it's gonna loosen the plates going all the way over toward Tennessee, which includes New Madrid and all. So therefore, we have a very volatile situation on our hands. And if the thing in Iceland keeps going off, that means that there's too much pressure underneath the earth down in here. And we run the risk of all this stuff happening here in the next, couple of years. And let me tell you something. A lot of people are having breathing issues right now and stuff like that. Well, the volcanic ash that the volcanoes are blowing off, like the one in over in Hawaii. There's been one over in Italy that's been giving some trouble. The one in Japan went off. We've had the one up in Iceland. We have over in the Pacific Ocean. We've had some down around Papua New Guinea and different places like that that's going off. These have left a tremendous amount of sulfur. Well, I forget the exact word of it right now. I got so much in my brain. The toxic chemicals that a volcanic ash is in volcanic ash. It's sulfur oxide, something like that. We as people are breathing this stuff. And it's everywhere in the atmosphere. If you don't believe that there's a lot going on in the atmosphere, just go outside at night with a super bright flashlight on a black, dark night. Now, if you live in town, this is not possible because y'all don't ever get dark, okay? You got to kind of go out in the woods where, and I'm lucky enough to live in, have you ever looked at a map of the earth and it shows light places and dark places based on city lights and how it filtrates the earth? I live in a strip on the earth that is the dark strip, and I can go out at night. I can see the Milky Way real well and clear. When I walk out and look up, I don't see lights from anywhere. I can see the sky. I can see the satellites as they go over at night. I can sit there and watch them blinking as they go over, and it's not airplanes. I know the difference between an airplane and a satellite. I can sit here and watch all that stuff, and it's just amazing to me as to how easy it is for us as people to get caught up in stuff like this. You know what I mean? The earth is right now is trying to go through and I hate to use the word pole flip, but there's some serious changes taking place in the earth right now. And I'm having to watch my words because I don't want my video took down. There's lots of things going on with the magnetosphere in the earth right now. And like this solar eclipse that's coming. I get tons of stuff about this solar eclipse. People want to know this, want to know that. I believe that there might be some prophetic things about this solar eclipse. I mean, that day, if you could stay home, I would advise it. If for no other reason, not that the world's not going to come to an end, okay? Let's just face that. The world's not coming to an end just because there's a solar eclipse. But there's about several million nuts in the world who think this is just something that they just got to go see, and small little towns are going to be inundated with hundreds of thousands of people. And it's just, it's just not a safe thing to do. You know, I mean, it's not safe to be in these big crowds like this because we've got such an infiltration of different-minded people in this country that you never know what they may try during this time. Now, will man try to seize this opportunity to do something? Now that's quite possible. That's quite possible. But, you know, is this going to do anything massive to the earth? I mean, yes, it can cause earthquakes. It can cause volcanic activity, just simply because when the moon comes between the earth and the sun, the moon controls our tides. It controls all, you know, it causes the earth swells, the earth shrinks based on the moon. And when it comes between us and the sun, it can mess with the magnetic pulls on the earth. It can mess with the tides, the pressure in the earth. It can mess with all this types of stuff. Thus, we could end up with earthquakes. We could end up with volcanoes. Now, maybe not exactly at the time that it comes through, but maybe within a day or so, these things could begin to happen. And yes, there could be some type of repercussion because of it. But man could also do some stupid stuff during that time and claim that it happened because of outer space, you know, or whatever. So I'm not going to freak out because this solar eclipse is happening. Now, it just so happens that the previous solar eclipse we had, and I'm sure if you sit down and do the study on this, I mean, I'm sure that you can probably make anything say anything. But the last one that came through, it was said that it went through a lot of towns named Salem. It crossed over a lot of towns as it went across the United States named Salem. Well, now this one they're saying is going to go through a lot of towns named Nineveh. And a few Salems on top of that. Now, does that prophetically mean anything? Could it be that this solar eclipse is a warning from God? Like when Jonah went to Nineveh? And you got to understand about Jonah when he went to Nineveh. Let's just spend a moment there. When Jonah went to Nineveh, let me ask you, when Jonah was called by God to go to Nineveh, Jonah's people didn't like the Ninevites. They actually hated the Ninevites. And Jonah says, I don't want these people to be spared. I want them to be destroyed. So he ran from God. And you know the story of Jonah and the whale and stuff like that in the scriptures. Well, eventually Jonah, you know, God got his attention and God said, look, I want you to go to the Ninevites. And so Jonah went to the Ninevites, and the Ninevites repented in sackcloth and ashes, and God spared them, which irritated Jonah. But nevertheless, when God calls him to do something, you know, he had to do it. And the same thing with us. If God calls us to do something, regardless of whether we like anybody or not, we have to do it or suffer the consequences. Now, we know that the Ninevites later on did turn back to their wicked ways, and they were destroyed. Now, I was in a meeting, this has been probably 15 years ago, maybe longer than that, where a gentleman was speaking about this very subject. And there was a whole group of people in there, and he says, is there anybody in this room who knows where ancient Nineveh actually was? In the world today, can you tell me where ancient Nineveh was located? Of course, I sit there and I kind of slip my hand up a little bit, and he says, well, I see one hand. He said, I've not been in many meetings where anybody gets that right. But he said, sir, he didn't know who I was. He said, sir, he said, do you want to take a shot at it? I said, yeah. I said, I'll take a shot at it. He said, okay, where do you believe in the modern world that the ancient Nineveh was? I said, well, my understanding, based on biblical maps that I've looked at in the past, I said, it would be modern day Baghdad. And he looked at me and he said, wow. He said, that is a very educated guess. And I thought, and I said, well, I'm not really guessing. I said, I've looked at the maps and I'm almost positive it was present day Baghdad, you know. And he said, you would be exactly right. He said, that is correct. And he said, I hardly ever get anybody in any meetings I've ever been in that actually knows that answer. And I told him, I said, well, I've done a lot of study on things like this. And it doesn't make me smart or anything. I just happen to be one of those kind of people who just dig into things that nobody else seems to dig into. And as I thought about that, you come to several different conclusions when you start looking at how the ancient world ties in with the modern world. You know, when we went into Baghdad for weapons of mass destruction, which I don't know why. Well, I do know why, but I can't say that. I don't see the wisdom, okay, in announcing that you're going to do something. You know, I mean, like with weapons of mass destruction, we told them, oh, well, Baghdad has weapons of mass destruction. We did that for months on end, and then we just invaded them, okay? Now, if they had weapons of mass destruction, they had time to get them out and move them, because we told them we were going to come get you. And of course, we know when we went in, they didn't find anything. And the bottom line is this: is the commander-in-chief at that time, I'm not going to call his name because y'all should know who he was, took a lot of artifacts that was in the ancient temple and brought them. He went into Babylon, and we call it Baghdad, Babylon, whatever you want to call it over there. And he brought back a lot of the artifacts from Babylon and brought them to the United States. And allegedly, this was the real reason we went to war with Iraq. It wasn't really the weapons of mass destruction. It was to go after those artifacts. And they're stored here in the United States, is my understanding. The three-letter agencies have them guarded. You know, they know where they're at. Let me just say this. My understanding is they're outside of the city of New York. Let's just say that. There's a place outside the city of New York that they're located. Now, what does that mean with anything to do with this solar eclipse? In my personal opinion, okay? In my personal opinion, I don't think it means a hill of beans, to be honest with you. I do believe that the media and the powers to be freak everybody out about what's going on with this solar eclipse. Now, is it true that something could happen? Yes, it is 100% true that something could happen. Am I going to be freaked out about it? No, I'm not going to be freaked out about it. I will be on guard because I think that's wise to have our guard up. I think it's wise. But I'm not going to freak out because of it. Now, here in the United States, people are asking me about this thing that went on in Russia the other day, where this concert, was destroyed and all these people were killed. And yes, Vladimir, the leader of the Kremlin, did come out with a statement, and he did say that I watched it personally when it happened. I was watching it. That whoever was responsible would pay, and anyone who was tied to the ones that were responsible, who instigated this, would even pay. Now, my understanding as of today, which is Sunday, they already have 4 suspects in custody. Now, I don't know who they are. I did not, well, let's put it this way. I'm not going to talk about it here, okay? I will just see how it plays out. Now, was the 3-letter agencies involved in this? There's a possibility. There is a possibility. And if there is proof that they were, and if, I'm just doing some if things here now, if you know what I mean. If the leader of the Kremlin keeps his word, then do we have anything to be concerned about here upon our American soil? And the answer is absolutely yes, because technically I don't look for himself to actually instigate anything. I do believe it would be more of a smaller country that's located just outside of Israel to actually instigate the problem, if you know what I mean. So, with all this being said today, where does that leave us at? Well, what it tells me is that we're living in a very unstable world. And the Lord has told us in the latter days of an age, in Matthew 24, what was going to happen. And then in other scriptures in the Bible, he did tell us that we, as being his children, would suffer persecution. He did not tell us that we'd be delivered from tribulation. He did not say that. He did say that we'd be spared from the wrath of God, which takes place in the latter 3.5 years of the tribulation. He would spare us from it. Now, what does sparing mean? Does it mean we'll go through it, or does it mean we'll not be here? That's a good question. Not one I'm going to talk about today, but it is a good question. Thus, I have to be careful what I say here. Probably just better leave that one alone. So, as a result, what we need to be focused on right now is having our house in order, because we're going to start seeing things in the United States that we're not accustomed to seeing. There is bacteria fixing to start being seen here in the United States that we have no antidote for, nothing for to fight these bacteria. This is the year of the cicadas and the grasshoppers. So we see this is going to be a year for chaotic weather. I told you all it'd be a roller coaster type year on the weather. Anything above and below the 33rd parallel is the weather's just going to be chaotic around that 33rd parallel. These are judgments, I believe, coming upon the nation. Now, I could go back and take this eclipse that's going to be taking place, and I could go back to the first plagues on Egypt, and I could make an analysis based on those two. I'm not going to, but I could actually do that. But would it be 100% accurate? That I cannot answer, so I will not do it here. And I have my own personal beliefs that I will not discuss on here because it's my personal beliefs. I have no scripture to back it up. I just have what I believe, So, guys, the bottom line is this. Get your house in order. Get your place in order. Get your food in order. Get a way to get you some water. Get a way to keep a roof over your head. Get a way to be able to cook your food without electricity. Be able to, if you're in a city, because a lot of the cities are going to burn, I'm just going to tell you that. Have a way to get out of these cities. Have a location that you can go to. Be able to be stable during these times. These times are not meant for you and me if you're a born-again believer. They're not meant for us. But it doesn't mean that we're not going to have to go through them, because we will have to go through them. So today, guys, I've tried to talk around a lot of different things and not really say a lot on either one of them, but yet put some information out there that would open our eyes as to some possibilities, and not yet actually come out and say what it was, if you know what I mean. So, got a lot more to do today, guys. I'm going to enjoy the day that the Lord's given me. I hope you'll do the same when you're sitting here watching this, whether you're having your coffee, your tea, or whatever, and that you'll have a blessed day and you'll get your house in order like we talked about. Thank you, guys, from Deep South Homestead.